Hello, 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 all of my fabulous, beautiful people, and how are you all doing today? I hope that you are all doing very, 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 very well tonight. I know it's late. I don't usually stream at this time, but I kind of got a little bit too hopped up on coffee when I was on the Recovering Hunbots channel earlier, and now I can't sleep. And so I just thought that I would go through something that I wanted to talk about. So for those that maybe don't know, hello, my name is Beth Queen of Spade, and I do talk about bad business practices. I talk about pseudoscience. I talk about cults. I do a little bit of comedy. I do some fun satire things. I do a little bit of everything, I guess. And so today I just wanted to kind of hang out because I was researching, as I've called it, a topic because about a year and a half ago now, I'd say a year and a half ago, in between there, I did a video about the anti-vax community. For those that maybe don't know, I cover them a lot. I go through r/videos, I do those, and I have kind of poke fun at the anti-vax community. I have also talked about modern alternative mama and her anti-vax stuff. I have also discussed just the beliefs that they have as a whole. We've debunked some. We've talked about all of this stuff on my channel in the past. You can go see the videos on that. I do have a whole playlist that's pseudoscience and cults that you can check out. And then I also have another playlist that is called Pseudoscience Isn't Science. And that's where most of the anti-vax stuff is there because to me, of course, I am pro-vaccine. I am okay with the mandates. And I am also in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, where right now we are having this really big truck convoy happening. And I am so thankful to be literally just far enough away from downtown that it does not affect us. But I do have friends that are downtown. Centertown is what they call it here. Centertown. That's our downtown, of course. And that's where Parliament is. So all the trucks are parked everywhere. I can actually go out on my balcony some days and see it because that's how close I am. I'm just, like I said, I'm just far enough away that the noise isn't bothering me. But one of my friends that does live in Centertown has a son on the spectrum who is actually having a very, very hard time right now because they're honking their horns for 16 hours a day. They're setting off fireworks randomly. They're crazy now. They had their GoFundMe cut off. If you didn't know, that was actually done by the Ottawa police. A lot of people are saying that GoFundMe was censoring them and cut them off or whatever. No, no, no. The Ottawa police went to GoFundMe and they were like, "Can you please not fund them? They're actually doing illegal activities and they're causing a lot of problems. So just don't give them money. Bad idea." And our government also kind of went to them and said the same, like, we need them away from our parliament building. Yeah, the parliament is basically where they're parked outside of, and then they've taken up the whole area downtown. We actually have an issue right now where they had to barricade several streets, of course, and it messed up the route that a lot of the doctors and nurses had to take to get to one of the main hospitals here. So we had a whole thing where they had to try to figure out, and they're still kind of figuring out how to barricade things without blocking off major routes because where they are and how they're barricading, they're right in center town. So they're blocking a big part of the city that's kind of important for people that are traveling to and from work. For example, a lot of businesses have had to shut down because there was violence. There was a shop that had to shut down because one of their employees actually got beat up by the trucker convoy, the "My Freedoms" dudes, because she was wearing a mask. I just have to point out that if you believe in freedom, that also means that you believe in the freedom to wear a mask. I'm just saying, don't shoot the messenger. It's true though. So that kind of thing's happening right now in my city. About a year and a half ago, we'll get back onto that now. Sorry. Coffee, remember? I literally drank way too much. I usually have just a little bit of coffee when I do the streams on the Recovering Humbots channel with her talking about on passive, just enough to like keep me up while Ash is blabbing because have you heard that man blab? And so, I ended up accidentally pouring a little bit too much. And then I was like, I'll be fine. We'll be good. Hi, we're not good. So I'm a little bit, woo, let's go. Way too much energy for this time at night. I don't remember the last time I had energy like this at this time. But year and a half ago, covered Trump, covered QAnon, covered the anti-vax community. I had done like a whole video on like the intro to it where we looked at like Trump's whole background of anti-vax and all of the connections in politics to the anti-vax community and like some of their higher up people. And the video actually got pew, like YouTube was like, I'm sorry, Queen, that can't be up here. We're gonna take it down. Now, to be fair, I will also bring up that this was around the time that Suit Yourself was canceling me with his like alt-right community. So not really that surprised. I'm pretty sure that they came and they were reporting like every video I did at that time like that. So that was probably why. It might not have just been YouTube. That's why I'm putting that out there. I don't want to be like, it was YouTube for sure censoring me because they might have reported it and got it removed. So I got to be fair. Whatever. So it disappeared. And when like YouTube yeets your video on you, it actually like fully like disappears. Like you cannot get to it. It is gone off. Bam. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna put this on the back burner. I got into doing other things for the last year and a half. I just kind of sat there. And then actually the other day I was on a Jeff Holiday stream and he wanted to cover it. And I was like, I'm going to send you all the stuff I have. So we're just going to go through some stuff that I have tonight. I'm not going to go through everything with you because I am going to be sending him stuff. Yes, I am. I'm Queen Spade Kingdom on Queen Spade Kingdom on Twitch. You can come follow me. I don't stream much there, but you can still do that. And yeah, so I I really don't want to give you everything because of course he has to have some stuff that I'm not going to show you. But there are some things that I want to talk about because obviously some things have like really changed between a year and a half and right now. Because now I have the trucker convoy happening here. And the one thing that a lot of people don't realize, like they're kind of like, why do you care about US politics? Because you're in Canada. It's like our politics influence each other. So, like, for example, for me, right now, with the trucker convoy going on, they they basically are quoting Trump, and we have a lot of kind of like alt-right people in the US that are supporting it. And it's a very much the anti-vax community behind them. And so it's all kind of connected. And then we've also gotten some new information. And then I think Trump has now said to get the vaccine, which is a little bit confusing. So I just want to talk about, some things. So let's just get right into it before I blabble. That's a word now. Blabber on forever. All right. So this is a anti-vaccination infodemic social media behavioral analysis. So what they did is they actually did a study where they wanted to see with the COVID happening, they said the anti-vaccination movement is currently on the rise, spreading online misinformation about vaccine safety and causing a worrying reduction in vaccination rates worldwide. Okay, so it's imperative to understand the reasons of vaccine hesitancy and to find effective strategies to dismantle the rhetoric of anti-vaccination supporters. Of course. So what they did is they actually analyzed the behavior of anti-vaccination supporters on the platform Twitter, because for some reason Twitter seemed to be like the main platform. It's very political over there, and I think that's why. So that's the one that they chose, and they basically found that anti-vaccination supporters are more engaged in discussions on Twitter and share their contents from a pool of strong influencers. And it does rely on a strong sense of community as the anti-vax community, because like they don't have science, so they need to depend on something, I guess, to stay a community, I guess, if you will. So this is the part we kind of want to get to right here, because this is kind of interesting. Our data demonstrates that Donald Trump, before his profile was suspended, because, yeah, he got suspended, was the main driver of vaccine information on Twitter. Based on these results, we welcome policies that aim at halting the circulation of false information about vaccines by targeting the anti vaccination community on Twitter. Based on our data, we also propose solutions to improve the communication strategy of health organizations and build a community of engaged influencers that support the dissemination. I can never say that the first try. Damn you, speech impediment of scientific insights, including issues related to vaccines and their safety. So here we actually have like the pictures. Okay. It comes with the pictures. How do I get this thing to go away? This bird is being silly. Oh, okay. I can move it. I was like, how do I do this thing? I'm new. I'm sorry. I've been here for 2 years. I should know better. So here we have the control, the anti-vax, the pro-vax, tweet, reply, retweet, and then you can see the numbers here. So this is vaccine control, anti-vax, and pro-vaccine. Here it's again, and this is tweets per month, and then replies per month. There's a lot of replies. To be fair, a lot of those replies are probably people that are like, no, you're insane. You got to be fair. And retweets per month is this. Again, I think some of it also, though, like we have to be fair and say that it it basically does depend very much on people responding that are also going to be like, hey, listen, I don't believe that at all. I don't like what you're saying about that. That's just how I feel. I think that a lot of it's going to be that. So I think we have to be fair when we're looking at these statistics. My computer's being silly. I'm sorry. Yeah, I can't really say that the statistics are exactly from everyone being like pro-vax for that. I don't think it would be fair to say that the replies are all people that would be like against it, I guess, or for it. I just wish it didn't take so long for them to admit misinfo was a problem. We're kind of after the fact now. Yeah. Man, that data is depressing. It is depressing. Hi, Carlos. It is depressing. It really is. So there's some graphs here, as you can see. Now, they get very, very into explaining the entire anti-vax movement. I don't feel like I have to, like, sit here and go into that. I think we all know how, like, the anti-vax movement goes. I think that my subscribers are also smart enough to know kinda how the information can spread, especially since we just looked at, like, the tweets and stuff. Um But it does say here that anti-vaccination supporters find fertile ground, in particular on Facebook and Twitter, as these platforms offer a digital space for people to share any kind of content, including science related or medically sensitive contents, which have the potential to reach a vast audience. Studies have particularly focused on the relevance of the internet and social media in shaping personal or parental choice about vaccines. So that's kind of like what they're wondering about. So now we get to the results. So it says anti vaccination supporters tweet less but engage more in discussion. So, in order to understand whether the success of the anti vaccination discourse is due to a particularly pronounced activity of anti vaccination supporters online between September and December 2020, we measured the number of Twitter actions on average in a month for each profile belonging to the control, anti vax, and pro vax group. Again, I showed you guys the picture of that. And when I'm done this stream, I'll leave the link to this down below if you want to come and like read the entire study and go through all of it. Obviously, there are the vaccine hashtags of vaccines kill, vaccines harm, and all those stupid things. And then they also figured that, pro vaccine hashtags exist, like vaccines work, I guess was a hashtag. I haven't been on Twitter in a long time, so I didn't know that vaccines work was a hashtag. It says anti vaccination profiles were the most active on Twitter with 536 actions per month, compared with an average of 277 actions for the control group and only 144 actions for the pro vax group. Okay, so that kind of gives you like a bit of an idea again of how big it is and how the anti-vax supporters are more engaged on Twitter. So this whole study goes into literally how often each one tweets, how often they respond to tweets, how often they retweet. But again, um, they did try their best to like go and check and make sure that the retweets were coming from like anti-vaxxers versus pro-vaxxers. But the numbers might vary a little bit. Again, if you know about study statistics, you know that there's always kind of like it might vary a little bit. So, anti vaccination support on Twitter is associated with a general belief in conspiracy theories and emotional behaviors. So, we know already that the anti vax community is all about echo chambers and misinformation on vaccines. Also on science. They are very into pseudoscience and not real science, which is why it's so hard to combat them because you give them real science and they're just like, well, that study about the MMR. And you're like, oh my God. And they're like, but Jenny McCarthy. And you're like, shut up. You know? So there's that. But they basically have proven that pro vaccination supporters generally shared contents depicting happy children after having received a shot, whereas anti vaccine supporters often shared disturbing images of suffering children or citations of discredited or non existing physicians. Yeah. About the dangers of vaccines for children. Further, children related content in this group is also associated with other conspiracy theories about scandals, or more generally about and psychological of children. I'm on YouTube, I gotta be careful. A large portion of anti vax profiles were sharing contents associated to children. All right. So here are some of the numbers, as you see here. And again, they do everything like they'll explain it to you in words and then they give you the graphs so that you can bring them up. You can kind of see there. Now, they also proved that anti-vax supporters share emotional contents with the use of emotional language. We all know that manipulation takes emotion. All cults, all MLMs, all of these like conspiracy theories and communities that try to rope you in, all this stuff, they all use emotional manipulation. And it's not really that surprising that the anti-vax community uses that, especially when you know how much they use their children. These people will post up a picture of their child crying, claim it's from a vaccine. Their kid will get the measles, and then they still won't admit that they should have probably gotten their kid the vaccine. And they'll say, well, I'd rather my kid die of the measles than have autism and stupid things like this. Okay. We can't really expect intelligence all the time. But the interesting thing, again, that we want to get to, since my main focus is on the political attachment, especially to like Trump, the word vaccines was the most represented in both groups, confirming that our initial criteria for inclusion were reasonable. To further highlight the difference between the two groups, they normalized the most used words in the two groups against each other. Here we found that the most relevant words in the anti-vaccination group were president, God, people, and masks. And then in contrast, pro-vax, my community, by the way, included words such as help, health, thanks, or research. Research being the main one. Real research, not biased research, with a study that's been debunked 5 bazillion times. In order to better determine the interests of the different groups, we clustered words according to topics and found that anti-vax profiles were the most engaged in political discussion, with nearly a 6-fold increase compared with a pro-vax group. Finally, we analyzed whether the use of emotional contents and language was associated with increased engagement, measured as the sum of likes, replies, and retweets on each individual tweet, but they found no significant correlation between the two factors for the anti-vax group. But the pro-vax did, suggesting that the use of emotional language could aid the success of the pro-vaccination communication strategy online. I think that the anti-vax people are probably a little bit careful of what they say. Just saying, they have to be a little bit more, I think, these days. So here it says that pro-vaccine supporters are more interested in their own education and profession. And they actually found that out because education and profession in the Twitter headline was declared 32% of the times in the pro-vaccination group, compared with 10% and 6% in the control and anti-vax group. And again, they have a graph and everything. Pro-vaccination group produces the most engaging content, which that's good news to me. I like that one. I'm like, that's good. So pro-vaccine profiles have more followers, which again is good, but anti-vax tweets are still getting engagement and they shouldn't. Now, here is what we really wanted to get it to. Is anti-vaccination supporters are engaged in a virtual community led by Donald Trump and other influencers. In order to determine whether the success of anti-vaccination movement is due to the existence of a community of engaged individuals driven by a pool of influencers with large follows, we retrieved for each individual profile of both the anti and pro-vax groups, and then they explain like how many they did of each, right? The 10 most retweet profiles and included them in our analysis. We scored the number of connections they established with each other by building a Twitter web with Cytoscape. Pro-vaccine and anti-vaccine Twitter webs scaled 1-to-1 show the extent of the ramifications of the latter in comparison with the former. And again, they got links to all of the pictures. So, what does it say about Trump? Well, they identified 14 large influencers, with the largest one being former US President Donald Trump. 5.2 times more relevant than the World Health Organization in the pro vaccine web. Other influencers influenced Trump's family members, politicians, and public figures known to support his presidency, as well as individuals and unverified popular profiles that are fully committed to the anti-vax cause. Therefore, here we identified the pool of relevant influencers that are likely to determine the opinion about a vaccine of a large number of people. These influencers include Trump, who is himself a proven anti-vaccination supporter, and others such as activist Charlie Kirk or vaccine denier Eileen Lorio. Hello, please work for me, computer. All right, so here we have our chart. Let's look at this one because this one actually has to do with Trump, right? And that's what we're doing here. Hello, computer. Would you work with me, please? That would be great. My computer's messing up on me again. Gotta love it. Oh, there we go. I should be good now. Right? Am I good now, guys? Or is it messing up again? Am I good now? Am I good now? Am I good now? No, no. My thing's messing up. Don't mess up. All right. Hello. Hello, computer. Are you working now? Perfect. Am I working now? I'm sorry. My computer decided to be all weird for a minute. Okay. Sorry about that. Okay. So here we have, this is our lovely thing. It'd be better if you guys came and looked at it as well. But basically they're showing you again what's being discussed. Then you can kind of see this graph here. All right. Now, this is what was tweeted. So, Donald Trump is a big one. And then right here is the ones that tweeted about it the most. And their size shows how big, I guess, it's the tweets. How much? So, their most prominent exponent is Donald Trump. As you guys know, the WHO is a World Health Organization. It says here the anti vaccination cloud contains 14 profiles, with former US President Donald Trump being the largest influencer. So he was the largest influencer of the anti vax community in 2020. That is a little bit crazy. This is fun. Oh, those were some fun comments. Anyway, so here we have the anti vaccination community and political implications. In this paper, we show that anti vaccination supporters produce fewer original contents on Twitter but share more contents than users belonging to the pro vax or control group. However, we also show that the average engagement, calculated as the sum of comments, likes, and retweets received by an anti vax tweet, is extremely low when compared with tweets published by pro vax profiles. This indicates that the majority of anti vax supporters is unlikely to influence vaccination choice for a large number of individuals. Instead, we show that the success of the anti vaccination movement online is likely based on common beliefs and interests, including in politics, right? Through which users established a well connected community and constitute an echo chamber for contents generated by a smaller fraction of profiles. We define these latter users as anti vaccine influencers. We identify former US President Donald Trump as the main influencer in the anti vax web. Despite him not having published direct anti vax tweets in recent times, Donald Trump consistently shared anti vax contents in the past, often associating vaccines to autism because he's dumb. Besides Trump, we identify his son, Donald Trump Jr. Can you be surprised though? Charlie Kirk, a popular evangelical Christian and Republican activist who supported Trump's presidency. They were friends. He's pretty high up in the anti-vax area, so not surprising. James Wood, a popular actor and producer who is also a strong supporter of Trump, to be among the largest influencers in the anti-vax network. Among others, there are also profiles that are fully dedicated to spread the anti-vax message online, including authors of books on the dangers of vaccines and non-verified profiles, including Cat Turd 2, a cat who defines itself as the mega turd who talks shit. Like, that's what you want to define yourself as? I don't know why you would want to define yourself as that.
Hi, bitch. I think you lost your goddamn mind.
I don't understand. What just happened? She's like, I'm a cat who's in mega, and I'm a piece of shit. Okay, well, whatever. Interestingly, in a recent study, Trump was identified as the largest driver of the COVID-19 infodemic, underlining the necessity of a scientific movement that prompts politicians to base their campaigns on evidence-driven policies. Then we go into the polarization of the anti-vaccine debate. Anti-vaccine supporters share conspiracy theories. Anti-vaccine messages can be, for a substantial part, be considered as conspiracy theories themselves. I consider it to be a pseudoscientific conspiracy theory. I do. This process is likely driven by the polarization of social media feed, where users are exposed to information, news, and views identified by algorithms as close to their interests instead of what's the most important and true. In fact, a recent study observed an increasing polarization of anti-vax content on social media. conspiracy theories of various kinds, as well as anti-vax beliefs and political extremism, by the way, of the alt-right, tend to be associated with each other. Who knew? I did. You probably did too, didn't you? Yeah, I know you did. As we previously mentioned, Donald Trump, despite being an anti vax supporter, has not discussed vax issues in similar terms during his presidency. Nonetheless, prior to the suspension of his Twitter profile, he retained the indirect ability to influence the great majority of individuals associated with the anti vax movement. Due to the polarization of the debate on social media, sharing or reading conservative tweets could increase the chance that a hesitant person gets in touch with anti-vax beliefs. And again, a hesitant person is who they are preying on. And they will say that they are into, just vaccine education. And then they're actually anti-vax. Look at Modern Alternative Mama. She's a perfect example. Why do you think I talk about her? That's why. Because she will say that she's all about vaccine education and just being aware and doing the research, but she's anti-vax. She's anti-hospital. Her kid broke their arm and she never took him to the hospital. She tried to do some hocus pocus on him instead. Okay, listen, so you see that a lot. It's a thing. It's been a thing. I'm just saying. So it says that it was previously shown that anti-vax users form a polarized network with little to no interaction with outsiders, in which users strengthen their positions by sharing each other's content. And they're saying that they want social media to change the polarized way they present information to users who halt the anti-vax infodemic and increase debate between communities. We welcome initiatives to suspend profiles that clearly share misinformation about scientific topics and are likely to have significant negative effects on society. Here's the thing, it's not about censorship. It's about that information can actually cause people's death. A little bit different. Anti-vax influencers could, however, be targeted in other ways too. These actions include shadow bans for science-based content, which could force a tweet's organic reach to drop. Info banners for tweets containing unverified information about medically sensitive topics could also be effective tools to limit the spread of misinfo about vaccines, which you will see Twitter and Facebook and even YouTube do. They'll be like, here's the COVID information. Go look up the real information on the CDC and all that, please. That kind of thing. So they're all about that. I'm all about that. I think we should do that. We encourage social media and the scientific community to discuss the possible introduction of science knowledge tests, which could be required for users that intend to share content containing medically sensitive information. These tests could inform users about vaccines and other scientific topics, which will hopefully reduce the amount of circulating fake news without imposing a prior restriction of individual freedom of speech. As the strength of the anti-vax movement relies on the structure of its community and the existence of social media as a tool, health organizations should consider restructuring decisional pathways to identify solutions in line with the times. Furthermore, health organizations could lobby indirect anti-vax influencers to become active pro-vax communicators. The value of positive influencers have been proven in a pilot study using a social network for multiple sclerosis patients, and their presence could counteract problems related to the lack of editorial review and fact-checking on social media. We need vaccination campaigns. We need to spread the right information. Then they have all of the references and all of that. So that's pretty recent, that one. Pretty recent. So now let's just take a little trip down memory lane to talk more about, Trump.
Uh-oh. Stinky poo.
Yeah, Trump. Let's talk about him a little bit more. My analysis is 10-year behind. No, it's not. All right. Some of this may be 10 years behind. I'm doing a deep dive on Trump's anti-vax connection. So we kind of look at like way back, Anti-vaxxers are using the same tactics as cults do to attract followers on social media. I want to talk about this too. So, this, of course, is written by our Lord and Savior, Stephen Hassan. He's my God. I got the Lord and Savior thing from Roberta Blevins. But I was calling him my God. I'd be like, Stephen Hassan, our God, God of cults. And he has done this amazing article that I just want to promote here, which talks about the anti-vax community, how they distort information, how they lie, and how they're using all of this to manipulate you. So let's just talk about that for a minute, because that's important to our conversation. And if you don't know who Stephen Hassan is, he's actually like one of the major people that speaks out against cults, and he is the person that invented the bite model, which talks about like behavioral control, information control, etc., etc. Look it up. So in 1974, he was recruited into a cult known as the Unification Church, but often referred to as the Moonies. The group was and still is a far-right cult founded by the Korean cult leader Sun Myung Moon. The Moonies believed that Moon was greater than Jesus and is God's Messiah. His teachings, followers have said, supersede conscience, the Bible, laws, and universal human rights. Thankfully, after 2.5 years, I was deprogrammed and realized my mind had been hacked. That's what it's like. A lot of people don't realize that you can get manipulated online into a cult, like a commercial cult, like a multi-level marketing company, or even like a religious weird cult. Look at the cult Love is One, which is now 5D full disclosure. I've talked about it on my channel, and check that out. It was basically an online cult. They did like webinars and stuff, and that's how they got a bunch of followers. And then they would get them to like come to the compound, the Mother God's house. Anyway, you can look into that. But yeah, you can be manipulated very easily, and it has nothing to do with your intelligence. Falling for things, getting pulled into cults, or being manipulated by stuff like this doesn't automatically mean you're dumb, even though we do joke that the anti-vax people are being kind of dumb. Just saying. So he left after 2.5 years. And with the help of ex-members and my family, I was able to break away. Looking back, though, I see that the fear tactics that Moon used to recruit and keep me in the cult are the same ones that leaders of the anti-vax ideology are using today to attract and retain followers via social media and other outlets. While there are many mind control techniques that destructive cults use, emotional control is one of their most powerful weapons. That's the E in the bite model for keeping people dependent and obedient. Known as phobia indoctrination, it exposes a person to a series of persistent irrational fears that initiate a closed cycle of fearful images, thoughts, and feelings. The goal is to cause people to fear things that are actually harmless in reality. The cue can be internal or external, such as a thought, image, word, smell, feeling, or behavior. This stimulus causes a person to generate negative feelings, often doom, guys. Doom. Okay, sorry. That was fun, though. For instance, when he was 19 years old, he was indoctrinated to believe that couldn't trust his own thinking because unseen satanic forces were affecting his mind. Moon did this by taking him and other cult members to see The Exorcist, a movie about a girl who gets possessed by the devil. I've seen it. I'm sure most of you have seen it. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's fun. He was able to implant a phobia, a persistent irrational fear, which, by the way, it's like, MLMs use this too, by the way. Their persistent irrational fear is fear of failure, fear of not being successful, by repeatedly telling us that God made the movie and that it was prophecy of what would happen to us if we left the group. Imagine thinking that, though. Imagine being like, oh my God, if I leave this cult, the exorcist will happen to me. That phobia, the fear of being possessed by the devil, is also used by religion, though, or of going to hell. I grew up, my parents were very Catholic. I even worked at church camp in high school. I was a camp counselor at church camp. This one time at church camp. Anyway, that was a big one. It was like, don't be bad or you're going to hell. Rah, 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 rah. I mean, when you're a little kid, you're growing up thinking that it's actually kind of scary, dramatic. So, it's one of the things that tethered him so deeply into the cult and prevented him from leaving. It's a big manipulation tactic, right? Anti-vax groups are doing the same thing today. Everyone is susceptible to mind control when under great stress and disorientation. And these groups use social media to bombard their targets with messages that sow doubt, fear, and confusion about the COVID-19 vaccine. As a result, a significant portion of the US population is refusing to get vaccinated and putting themselves at risk of being hospitalized or dying from this freaking virus. Go get your freaking vaccines. Helping people to overcome these fears is the only way to end this pandemic. Yeah, we all have to get vaccinated, all of us who can, and get our herd immunity, and then eventually this thing goes. You keep fighting for my freedoms, but like these truckers, right? But it's like, we want the freedom to go back to the way we lived before this came here. So can you just fucking go get the jab and shut up? Anyway, here are 3 specific ways anti-vax groups use deception to influence the public. So, withholding vital information, also the eye in the bite model, information control. There is a difference between fears and phobias. Legitimate fears are good. They help keep us from dangers, right? It's also like normal, for example, to be nervous before a job interview. That's like a normal fear, right? A normal, like, bit of anxiety. There is such a thing as having like normal anxiety and then having anxiety. Phobias, however, are powerful fears of something bad happening that are irrational, very small or non-existent. Like if you get the vax, then you're going to get chipped, something like that. For example, some people are phobic of elevators or of leaving their homes. Telling someone that elevator accidents happen each year without telling them how many elevator trips are successful deceives them into believing that elevators are dangerous. True. Anti-vax influencers tout antidotes of adverse reactions without mentioning how rare they are. These antidotes are a form of phobia indoctrination. Anti-vaxxers withhold information about the vaccines, causing people to fear that by getting vaccinated, they would be putting themselves at a high risk of severe side effects, or even death in some cases. The reality is that instances of serious negative physical reactions to the vaccine are very rare. And it's usually connected to someone that's was immune compromised and didn't know, and then got a vaccine. It's important for people to think critically about the actual risks of COVID versus the risk of the COVID vaccine and not just succumb to irrational fear. If you are unvaccinated, you are at a much higher risk of dying from the virus, Last time I said that on a stream or in a video, everyone got mad at me and they were like, there's nothing that proves that. And I was like, well, I know what community you're coming from. And doctors overwhelmingly agree that getting vaccinated is by far the safest, best choice. Smartest choice, too. So if you want to be smart, go get the shot. Rather than trusting anti-vax influencers and people like freaking Donald Trump, not the man I would take advice from, but anyway, people with concerns about the safety of the vaccine should be looking at the facts and trusting the experts. You know, like the people that work at the Center for Disease Control. I like them. They know their shit. Distorting information. Anti-vax groups distort information by misrepresenting data and casting doubt on the scientific process. For instance, many anti-vax influencers claim that the vaccine is dangerous because it is new and was rapidly developed. But in reality, COVID-19 vaccines make use of technology that has been extensively studied for decades and that like wasn't around for past vaccines. So to compare like this one to past vaccines being made is kind of not fair. We have way more technology now than we did the last times we had to like do a whole vaccine from scratch. So it's just not a fair comparison. And the vaccine had to go through usual rigorous testing for emergency approval. And I also did a whole video where I went through what that entails, especially here in Canada. Health Canada, they test it like crazy. So they wouldn't be giving it to us here in Canada if it was not safe. They tested the crap out of it. Again, they were able to do it quicker because of the technology that's available now versus the technology that was available before. Do we understand? Yeah? Okay. Let's all be smart, everyone. The alt-right says they're smart, and then they become anti-vax all over the internet all of a sudden. And I go, what the fuck is going on? Anyway, outright lying. Anti-vax social media campaigns spew outright lies to sow doubt and confusion about the vaccination process. They do. There was an anti-vax propaganda film that went viral. All right. It was called Plandemic. And I have a video where I debunk all of Plandemic as well on my channel here. So you can also go check that out. That one, YouTube did not on me. Okay. So there. The film falsely claimed that the COVID vaccine is a money-making scheme for a group of elites who are hiding evidence that the vaccine causes medical harm. The funny thing, though, is that they just want to make money off of this shit. It likely successfully implanted vaccine phobias for many who watched it. And the issue with it is that when it first came out, the fucking thing went viral. It went so viral. And I like freaked out. I was like, oh my God, no, we have to stop this. No, but then they did pull it like pretty quickly. Like they did jump on it pretty quick. But like by then it had already been seen by like million people. So, yeah, no. When people are not properly informed, deciding whether or not to get vaccinated can be a scary decision. Again, you can be like, I'm a little scared. I want to research this. I want to look into it. All I ask is that you actually look into it with the real information and not the false studies and listen to what Donald Trump says and other stupid politicians that are going to make money off of you not getting vaccinated. They'll make more money off of that. I'm just saying. So, people are constantly exposed to lies about the vaxes online, including false claims that they alter DNA or lead to infertility. I don't even know how people got to the conclusion that this vaccine could alter their DNA. I'm not really sure about the infertility thing either, but like the DNA one just floors me. It's fucking hilarious. I'm like, you want to explain that to me, please? That makes no sense. Of course, we know that billions of doses have been administered worldwide. That is a huge sample size. Yep. And the absence of any widespread serious side effects speaks to the vaccine safety. Okay, so yeah, it's been long enough. You guys have waited it out. Go get the fucking shot. Okay, thank you. Why are you still watching this? Go get the shot. Phobias are common but curable. If we do not take the time to analyze the data and actual risk, and if we allow ourselves to trust people and sources that are untrustworthy, we can go down a rabbit hole of paranoia and end up in real danger or like randomly in the alt-right community like, the fuck am I doing here? Okay, just be careful. Helping people overcome these fears is the only way to end this pandemic. And of course, I strongly do believe in that. I really do. I think that the only way to end this pandemic is if we all get vaccinated and then, yeah, stop our fears. So, let me just go through some of the other information I have. Don't worry, we're not going to be on here for too much longer. But here we have this article, just because I want to show you guys some of the connections that he's had, in case we forgot in the past. I don't know. Trump loyalists team up with anti-vax doctors for health and freedom tour. So Michael Flynn was actually one of the key speakers at the Reawaken American tour, which ended up just being basically like an anti-vax tour. My freedoms, So it featured ex-general, if you don't know who he is, Michael Flynn, and top Donald Trump loyalist donors. It had events in Florida, Michigan, and other states. It underscores how Trump's allies, anti-vaccine doctors, and conservative preachers are amplified baseless claims that are hurting the nation's public health and its democracy with potentially far-reaching impacts, says pandemic and election experts. And this happened when the COVID cases were soaring and Republicans' drives to pass state laws weakening voting rights increase. While the tour has touted Flynn's key role, a Tulsa, Oklahoma media figure and Christian entrepreneur named Clay Clark has been instrumental in orchestrating the gatherings, also dubbed Health and Freedom Conferences, using his Thrive Time podcast and radio show and charisma news coverage. The Reawaken events have featured talks by vaccine skeptics such as Simone Gold, who was charged for taking part in the Capitol riot, and Lead Americans Frontline Doctors, a rightist group that garnered attention for touting dubious COVID-19 cures such as ivermectin and hydrochloroquine, which we just found out that there are MLM hunbots telling people to take those and also telling them how to make them themselves. You can go check out that video too. I believe that was like my last video. Stella Emanuel, a Houston doctor who is part of Gold's group and who spoke at a Michigan Reawaken rally on the 20th of August, gained notoriety last year for public remarks at a Washington rally near the Supreme Court, suggesting America's health problems were linked to alien DNA and sperm from demons. Yeah, she did. Can't make this shit up. You guys are listening to people that believe that health problems are linked to alien DNA and sperm from demons. That's who the conservatives are listening to when they are anti-vax. Good job, guys. Good job. Another doctor listed as a speaker at the rallies is Scott Jensen, a former state senator and Fox News favorite. You guys know him, right? Who was running for governor in Minnesota last year. Jensen was a candidate for PolitiFact's Lie of the Year for claiming baselessly that doctors were overcounting COVID cases for their own financial gain, which then began a lot of the conspiracy around how like COVID was fake and the doctors were lying about the number of cases. That's who it came from. This jerk. Further, the conservative tour has provided new audiences for rich Trump donors such as Mike Lindell, the chief executive of MyPillow, who has stated falsely that Trump would be reinstalled as president by the 13th of August, and Patrick Byrne, the former chief of Overstock, who bankrolled with millions of dollars a spurious audit in Arizona's largest county that has drawn bipartisan fire for lacking merit. Not surprising. There you go. So basically, like, this whole reawaken thing is connected to like a whole bunch of people that were in politics, that were in Trump's, like, lobbying for Trump and everything. Um, it's all connected. Other Trump loyalists have popped up at the reawaken events, including Roger Stone, a longtime Trump advisor, who also was pardoned by Trump after he was convicted of lying to Congress and other felonies as part of the federal inquiry into Russian meddling in the 2016 elections, and Charlie Kirk, who runs the pro-Trump youth group Turning Point USA. Lovely, right? Ann Nelson, the author of Shadow Network, a book about the right-wing Council for Nationalist Policy, which boasts some key evangelicals, said Clark's. That's why I don't do videos on evangelicals much, because I can hardly say the freaking word. Said Clark's reawakening tour has echoes of earlier religious political entrepreneurs, but said Clark has modernized their techniques with religious rallies and media platforms promoting Trump surrogates like Michael Flynn and medical misinformation peddlers like Simone Gold to build momentum for the radical right leading up to next year's midterms and 2024 election. Just saying. I don't know, guys. Just saying. Just saying. Trumpy Bears. Why is my chat so dead? Because it's late at night. All of my people are probably in bed right now. That's what happens when all of your subscribers are parents. Okay. So here we have President-elect Donald Trump and vaccines. This is another article that was actually written on November 10th, 2016. So here it has some tweets that he did with the dates. Like, this is one in 2014. Healthy young child goes to doctor, gets pumped with massive shot of many vaccines, doesn't feel good and changes. Autism, many such cases. That was tweeted on March 28th, 2014. So he has been anti-vax and one of those morons that think that the vaccine causes autism for like a really long time. Then he says autism rates through the roof. Why doesn't the Obama administration do something about doctor-inflicted autism? We lose nothing to try. And that was on the 22nd of October of 2012. So Zach Copeland reported on November 18th that Mr. Trump met with anti-vaccine activists, including discredited Dr. Andrew Wakefield, at an event in August 2016. Also, on January 10th, 2017, vaccine critic Robert F. Kennedy Jr. met with the president-elect and has told the press that Mr. Trump asked him to chair a committee on vaccine safety. Kennedy, an attorney and environmental activist with no scientific or public health training, is a vocal proponent of fringe and discredited ideas about vaccines. And just in case you guys wanted some more information on that one, it says here, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., America's most famous political dynasty, has given rise to one of its leading COVID anti-vaxxers and his message reaches millions. And this was actually from February 1st of 2022. He's Bobby Kennedy's son, right? So Mr. Kennedy is one of America's leading anti-vaccine activists, and his popularity is soaring as the Biden administration pleads with people to get vaccinated against COVID, particularly in states where less than half the population is double jabbed. Get your fucking vaccines. Mr. Kennedy is spearheading the resistance. The US has been hard hit by the Omicron variant, and so has Canada. 145,000 people have been hospitalized with COVID nationwide the week that this came out, first week of February. All right? That's ridiculous. Misinformation around vaccines is infecting certain populations, and it's spreading online. He, in a rare interview with mainstream media, Mr. Kennedy told Sky News that the CDC, Center for Disease Control, the official U.S. Health Protection Agency, is a sock puppet for Moderna and Pfizer, which manipulates data on COVID vaccines. Similar falsehoods can be found on the website for Mr. Kennedy's nonprofit Children's Health Defense. Visits to the website have skyrocketed from 150,000 per month before the pandemic to a peak of 4.7 million in August. But he actually claims it's 6 million a month, which that would be even worse, just saying. The website casts doubt on the effectiveness of the vaccine and amplifies rare instances of so-called vaccine injury, where simultaneously claiming the CDC is manipulating real-world data which indicates the vaccine is safe. He is probably the most notorious and leading anti-vax in the States right now, other than Trump. And he's got growing donations to his charity. He's making a lot of money off of his books and everything. Wow. When asked if he was putting lives at risk by amplifying misinformation around the COVID vaccine, Mr. Kennedy bristled and said, "I know we are saving people's lives and we're saving democracy because children should not be getting this vaccine. We want all the children to die," is basically what he should have said. He also said he did not believe that in some hospital COVID wards, up to 99% of patients were unvaccinated. It's true. At a rally in Washington, D.C. this month opposing vaccine mandates, Mr. Kennedy compared COVID-19 vaccine requirements in the U.S. to conditions in Nazi Germany, like a moron who's really insensitive, and said people living under Nazi rule could hide in an attic, like Anne Frank did. Motherfucker, it's not the same. He later apologized for his comments, and his wife, the actress Cheryl Hines, condemned the comparison. Well, isn't that wonderful? Great. Isn't that just wonderful? Here's some more information. Trump met with prominent anti-vaccine activists during his campaign. Again, he's pretty close with Andrew Wakefield. He's met with him a bunch of times. You can find quite a bit of evidence online of him meeting with him. Trump is no stranger to the anti-vaccine movement. He has suggested in interviews, tweets, and during debates that he sees some link between childhood vaccines and autism, despite the lack of any scientific evidence supporting such a link. And that comes from the U.S. Institute of Medicine, concluded in a 2014 report that there is no link, adding that the current vaccine schedule for children should be left as it is. Healthy young child goes to doctor, gets pumped, blah, 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 blah. Already showed you that one. Like, literally showed you the tweet. And if you don't know, Wakefield was barred from practicing medicine in the United Kingdom after authorities concluded he had committed professional misconduct. Now lives in Austin and basically just goes around spreading vaccine misinformation. As president, Trump will have the authority to appoint a number of influential public health officials, including the Surgeon General, the head of the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, and the head of the Food and Drug Administration. It's not clear how any views he holds on vaccination might influence his appointments or administration policies. There's some info on that as well. Here's some more information about how 2/3 of anti-vax propaganda posted online is created by just 12 so-called influencers. Mr. Stubbs added that labeling people who are vaccine hesitant and as anti-vaxxers can be dangerous, especially in schools, as it drives discussion underground and gives teachers less opportunity to open up conversations, which could encourage uptake. That was important for me to show, just to keep in mind if you are like speaking out about that kind of thing. But yeah, it just has a little bit more information. Just a little bit more. Here we have an article from August 10th, 2015 that talks about how Trump is an anti-vaxxer again. And it also talks about how he's connected to Robert F. Kennedy Jr., of course. So he's been connected to some of the most prominent anti-vaxxers for like a really, really long time. Again, I just want to show you guys this is what's going on in our world right now. We are doing a class action lawsuit, but the funny thing about it is that they have actually linked our protest as well to like people in the US. And here's the thing that says we're closing early tonight, Friday at 6:30 p.m. Because they got one of their people beaten up. See, here's the police saying that they're the ones that took out the GoFundMe. And yeah, she's basically, they have people that were beat up. They were closed until February 9th. One of our staff was physically assaulted on their way to work today, blocked on the sidewalk by two men, and shoved to the ground for wearing a mask. Your freedoms, huh? Freedom! And then they found out it wasn't an isolated incident. There have been 400 calls of service related to demonstration. This is funny. Trucker tantrum. But yeah, they have actually done some, like when you walk around downtown, you can hear them chanting all of the like mega stuff. Some of them are, they had somebody with a Nazi flag at one point. That was freaking weird. So here we have an article from June 2021, which talks about how millions of Americans view being anti-vaccination as part of their social identity. In a new paper published for the journal Politics, and again, you can come here, and then you can actually see the whole thing. That's the study there. It found that 22% of Americans actively identify themselves as anti-vax. 14% saying they are sometimes part of the movement, and 8% saying this is always the case. And they seem to really like to have it as an identity. They talk about how they kind of think that most people are just in it to feel like they're a part of something, which is the case with most of these conspiracy theories. Another recent study, which again we looked at, also found that anti-vaccine ideas are most popular among Republicans. Despite the prevalence of anti-vax views, researchers at the nonprofit Center for Countering Digital Hate found that up to 65% of anti-vaccine misinformation on major social media platforms are being spread by one of a mere dozen individuals and organizations, meaning that misinformation is concentrated in its dissemination. I'll get it right eventually, guys. I promise. I'll try. So here we have a little bit of information about that. It goes into a little bit more detail. So that one's interesting because it actually has the studies that you can see. Now, here's another weird thing I just want to talk about, because Fox News is, of course, the conservative news. Axe Bernson's anti-vax commentary is killing Fox viewers because that's what the network brass wants. He's a pandemic conspiracy theorist, of course, if you don't know. And he had a turn on Fox News and Tucker Carlson's show, in which he called for the withdrawal of the mRNA vaccine for COVID-19 and said that no one should get them or get boosted based on the false premises that the vaccines do not work and are dangerous. He just went on there and said that. And the thing is, some people might hear that and then just be like, okay, it's dangerous. I'm not going to get it. But it says here, programming like this is killing Fox's viewers by discouraging them from taking shots that are incredibly effective in preventing hospitalizations and deaths from the virus. See, I don't hate conservatives because I don't want you all to die. Okay? That's what will happen. He has been described now as the pandemic's wrongest man. And of course, Tucker Carlson is also doing anti-vax talking points. So yeah. It just goes into all of the people that are kind of in that area and how they're related to Fox News. So that's an interesting article. Here we have an article that was from September 9th, 2021, that goes into details about how the Republicans aren't new to the anti-vax movement. At first glance, oh, wait, well, we don't have to read the whole story. Well, they talk about a girl that basically wasn't left wing, but she decides that the government shouldn't be regulating things that don't hurt others. And the thing about that is it's just kind of selfish. So here they explain how the vaccines work. Here we go. Republicans and independents are increasingly anti-vax. So there you have it. But we just all around have way too many people that are anti-vax, really. Then they have several studies that they've done, like, and polls that they've done. So it goes into detail about that. They say that Republicans and Democrats at this time, they had a vaccine hesitant belief. They were roughly about the same rate. But when asked about government mandates, Republicans are much more likely to take the vaccine hesitant stance. And that was according to Alan McCoy, a sociology professor at State University of New York. And then they did a 2018 study published in Critical Public Health. McCoy compared two Pew Center surveys on vaccine beliefs. So the more ideologically extreme a respondent was, regardless of whether they're on the left or right, the more likely they were to think that vaccines are unsafe. But when asked if vaccines should be compulsory or left up to parents, respondents who identified as very conservative were 136% more likely than moderates to think it should be a parent's choice, while those who were liberal and very liberal were 44% and 13% less likely to think so, respectively. Democrats and Republicans are almost equally likely to hold anti vaccine beliefs, but Republicans in particular also tend to be against vaccine mandates. Then they talk about since the pandemic. When YouGov posed the same question this past July, 11% of Democrats, 18% of independents, and 27% of people said non-COVID beliefs to be definitive. Instead, it's possible that Republican resistance to COVID vaccine could mutate into vaccine hesitantly more generally if one's political identity demands resistance. And yeah, COVID cases are rising, so I'm not really sure why it's even a question. Again, like, we need to, okay. Yeah, anyway, this is an actual paper that was done. University of Chicago and Becker Friedman Institute for Economics working paper. You can download it. Basically, it goes into all of the information that was misinformation during a pandemic. And all of this. It's interesting. I highly recommend. When I am done this, I will, of course, leave the link down below so that you can come and check it out for yourself if that is something that you choose to do. Again, I would recommend always research things on your own. Like I said, always better to come and research things on your own. It is extremely long, but it really does go into all the misinformation, where it came from, how we got here in terms of the vaccine. It shows like counts of coronavirus related terms by episode. See, like, it has all of the charts you could ever need to discuss this. And it goes into basically everything. Carlson, Hannity, content gaps and effects on cases and deaths. Like, it literally goes into everything. It is crazy long. It's 114 pages. Well, not really, because like the end are just the questions, as if you're doing a paper. But yeah, again, I would come and check it all out. We have like the COVID-19 outcome list and everything. It's just a really great source of information if you're looking into COVID, how the anti-vax information and misinformation about it gets spread, and every single piece of information you could ever want. Here we have another one, which is from 2016, about how Trump met with prominent anti-vaccine activists during the campaign. They go into details. Again, they talk a lot about his stuff with the autism thing, because it's like, how do you still believe that? Anyway. Yeah. It has a couple of links that are like decent. And then here's another one where, again, it says that the study indicates that he was the anti-vaccination influencer on Twitter, and it goes into some other details about the study. They talk a little bit more about his son with this one. And then, of course, you have the entire study right here to see. Again, we already went through it. But yeah, it's a good way to kind of, because they talk about some of the other ones they've done and stuff too. They explain the Cytoscape software and how it analyzes everything. And again, they say there were 14 large influencers in the anti-vaccination network. Research has found that Americans who voted for Trump in 2016 were particularly prone to anti-vax attitudes, and that these attitudes were exacerbated by his tweets. So they have found a direct link to Trump and then the anti-vax community and the spread of the misinformation about the COVID vaccine, which again explains why there's so many of these conservative YouTubers out here just about the vaccine with misinformation. So yeah, it says the general public. Let's talk about why you should be concerned. The general public should be concerned with increasing vaccine hesitancy, as this may ultimately impact everybody's life. Yeah, even yours watching. Vaccine coverage is of utmost importance, and even more now, to overcome the social and economic issues imposed on us by this fucking pandemic and virus, okay? Our study may help people to understand how not to fall prey of the anti-vaccine discourse on Twitter. And that's why, while I was doing this, I wanted to kind of go into, how you fall for this misinformation. So yeah. Yeah. No, probably not. She probably isn't. I feel like CC would be too smart for that. No. Thank you. You're so sweet. If this is the future of data analytics and analysis, well, you know. yeah. So that is a synopsis of the anti-vax community, its connections to Trump, Trump's connections to some of the high ups in that community. And it just goes to show you why there's so much anti-vax propaganda. Talked a bit about the Twitter study, which I think shows a lot. But then that other big paper, it has a lot of really great information that really dives deep into how the misinformation is spread, how you can be manipulated by it. Of course, my whole thing is not getting manipulated, right? We don't want to get manipulated. I've been fine the last few days. I do a stream every single night. I don't really know what you're talking about. Anyway, so yeah, I really wanted to look at that again because, like I said, my last stream on it disappeared. I'm putting some information together. That's not everything I have either. I have some more stuff that I saved on my computer from back then that I'm grabbing to send to people. I just think that it's really, really interesting to look at how these conspiracy theories can manipulate people, how they can even manipulate people that are intelligent, that think that they can research things. Like I've said before, sometimes when you're intelligent and you're good at research, you can actually fall for these things more because you actually fall down a rabbit hole. You know what I mean? You can fall down a rabbit hole. So, like in your research. So I just feel like it's good to know that so that you can kind of combat that, so that you know not to look at the biased information that's out here. Because obviously there's a lot of misinformation being spread around about these vaccines and the dangers with them. And it is coming from the far right. Most of the stuff I've seen's come from the far right anyway. I've seen a lot of that. So I do think that we need to really look into like the influence, who influences the far right now. Well, Trump, I'd say the most. Still, somehow. He's like not going to be president again, guys. Like, give it up. And so, because of that, I think we do need to like keep track of his connections to the higher ups in that community. It is interesting to me to see them all like connected and how they're connected through other people, through other people, through other people. It'd be interesting to see like a chart of Trump and like all of his anti-vax connections. Maybe I should put that together somehow. That might just be a fun Sunday night for me when I get bored one day. So yeah, I just wanted to look at that because I had too much coffee for my live stream earlier and I wanted to have some fun. So I had some fun doing that. I hope that you had fun watching it and love my replay crew that will watch this in future, probably tomorrow, because people be sleeping. And yeah, I'm gonna go to bed now. You know, smoke a bong, go to bed, relax. I think the coffee is wearing off, you know, finally. I mean, talking about all that helped. Some people may find it like dry, you know, dry, but I just find it really interesting. I think pseudoscience interesting. I think it's really fun to like debunk the wrong science and talk about real science and talk about like, you know, how we can stop the anti-vax community, I guess. I was like, how do I word that? Because like I can't stop them on my own. right? I can't stop them on my own, but it's good to know that there's other people out here that are talking about it as well, especially since, this whole convoy thing's happening. I met somebody today that's really cool that did a really cool video about that. So I'm probably going to like react to it or something just for fun because it's really funny and it's cool. And I like the video that he did. Um, but it's kind of like this topic. So it's fun. So yeah, look for that. I'm trying to get the the next part of my Charlie documentary done. I wanted to have it done for this weekend, but then I had my little one home a couple days this week because she was sick, and now I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to get it done. But I really do want to have it done like by the end of the weekend. I'm not sure if there's going to be a video out tomorrow. We'll see how I'm feeling. Maybe I'll just do another stream in like the afternoon or something. So stay tuned to the community tab. That's usually where I give my updates on what I'm doing. And then just chit chat and post stuff and speak my mind sometimes because I'm allowed to speak my mind too, right? Right. All right. And no matter where you are and what you're doing, I hope that you have a fabulous, fabulous, fabulous day. Take care. I'll see you in the next one, or fabulous night since it's probably late. And remember, go get the vaccine. Don't listen to these conservative YouTubers out here that are about the vaccine and about the mandates. The funny thing to me is, remember, if it wasn't for these people, we wouldn't need the mandates. The reason why we have the mandates is because these people couldn't just listen and then go and do what they should have done. So we have herd immunity so that this thing goes away. I don't know why these people don't want this thing to go away. I don't know why they won't just follow the mandates. It's all like just a way to fight against the government, kind of thing. I don't know. It's stupid to me because it is putting a lot of people at risk for health, at risk for death. And again, this pandemic will not go away if we do not all get the vaccine. So make sure that you get the vaccine. Give people the right information. Try and send them the information. If you see them talking smack online, giving out the misinformation, especially on Twitter, I'm not on there. I can't do anything about it. Make sure you correct them. Send them the proper information. Maybe send them like some articles on how this thing's manipulating them. Because by tomorrow, I should have the links down underneath, and I will make sure to leave some articles on that too down underneath. And then maybe if they read and they realize that they're getting manipulated into this weird conspiracy cult thing of being anti-vax alt-righters, then they won't want to do it. I don't know. It's worth a shot. So I'll see you very soon. Good night. Bye. Again, though, please, will you just get the fucking vaccine?
Hi, bitch. I think you lost your goddamn mind.